Past 8.
The Radio Wammo Breakfast.
Issues of the day under T-Radar.
Yes, joining us today, somewhere mobile, it is T-Radar. G'day there, T-Radar.
Well, hello, how are you?
Yeah, it's good. Cruising around the mean streets of Auckland City.
The main streets of Auckland City. There's not a lot of cruising to be done at this time of the day. You generally just find yourself sitting on the main streets of Auckland City, and long lines of cars of other people who are all sitting on the main streets of Auckland City.
Everyone contemplating the issues of the day.
All of them.
Including this issue with the Greenpeace protesters out there doing the good fight for the people of New Zealand, trying to protect our coastlines. Meanwhile, John Key wants us to go send the Navy to blow their asses out of the water.
Well, that's right. Greenpeace is out there with a couple of Maori tribes and others who are finding this whole thing not quite up their alley. They're not overly keen on having, Petrobras digging for oil out there in the middle of the area, obviously because it's going to be, it's incredibly sort of deep water where they are. So, no, I don't think they've really drilled all that much, and I'm not sure the safety record of Petrobras is all that great. We're talking at depth a couple of times deeper than they had over there in the Gulf of Mexico, and we all saw how that ended. So people are a little bit concerned. So they've been going out there, Greenpeace, some of the local other environmental groups, and the local iwi, and jumping into the water. Some of them have been with a buoy attached to them in front of the boat, so they can't do the testing. They're doing the sort of the sonar testing. Essentially, what they do is they sort of fire off a large sort of explosive type charge and see what happens with the sound waves as they bounce back, so they get an idea of what's under the seabed. Can't do that obviously if you've got people in the water in front of your boat. So John Key said, look, if this was on land, we'd get the police in there and we'd clear them out, but it's not. So we think we'll send the Navy and the Air Force in
to use them as target practice.
Exactly, and hustle them along. But a lot of questions unanswered here. It's all very well to say, oh look, we've got this reserve and we'll go out and do it, but I'm not sure that New Zealand really wants to be at the forefront of deep sea ocean drilling.
Apparently deeper than the disastrous situation in the Gulf of Mexico.
That's exactly right. Yeah, a couple of times deeper than that. And Petrobras, I think, have had they've had their share of sort of accidents, as is likely to be the case when you're dealing with technology at this end of the extreme spectrum.
It's highly likely. But I feel pretty miffed when I see John Key get up there and say, "Oh, this is for the economic benefit for the whole country, for everyone." It is total BS, because most of those profits go to the oil company overseas. That's total BS.
That's right, and they say, there will be all this work and everything there, but I don't know how many of the workers will come in with foreign labour. We only need to look at the fishing quota saga with what's happening there. There was I think it was Michael Field's story in the Sunday Star Times the weekend before last. You got all this quota. It's been sold off to foreign boats. The crews are paid a pittance, work in squalid conditions that would be totally unacceptable under any form of New Zealand law. And the money from that fishing quota disappears overseas. I mean, obviously some of it returns to New Zealand, but certainly not in the way that I imagine most right-thinking folk would imagine would happen, with jobs for locals and a bit of an export industry from here. A lot of the fish, I believe, are caught here, sent over to Samoa, put in a can, exported back to New Zealand.
Yeah.
Not really the way we wanted it. So, I suspect the oil drilling will be the same.
Pretty much along the same lines. So, good on those Greenpeace fellas for getting out there and doing what we can't do, because we're going to go and do our daily job every day and do that sort of thing, and we're not that comfortable out on the sea. But I'll probably end up throwing up. But
we sit in the comfort of our studios and our cars and rail against them.
Well,
ironically, as I sit in my car.
yeah, with the engine going.
Yes.
And foot slightly on the accelerator going.
Just to keep it warm and keep the warm air flowing through with the heater.
Yeah. Now, let's turn our attention towards the controversy last week with the so-called tapa waka and the Party Central situation, T-Radar.
Look at that. There's increasingly inching closer to the World Cup. I'd actually managed to forget it was even happening for a couple of weeks.
Oh, that would have been bliss. What a blissful couple of weeks.
It was really great. Then I went, oh, God, that's right. Someone drew it to my attention that it was back on again. I think it was, the supposed tapa waka, and a bit of hoo-ha about that, obviously. I thought it looked like a bloody great idea. Lovely sort of a bit of an auditorium. And there, it's essentially a large sort of, canoe-shaped auditorium for cultural shows. It did surprise me. that they were only going to think of having it running for sort of a week or so in Auckland, or a couple of weeks, I think, at the most. I thought, well, that would have been great to have had that running, somewhere down on the waterfront for the duration of the World Cup, with some, a range of sort of cultural performances, even a bit of a festival.
Yeah.
A festival of Māoritanga or something like that went over for the duration. Would have been absolutely great. But what sort of seemed to have slipped past us, you remember the whole concept of Party Central, and they were going to build this enormous thing down on the wall?
That's right. It was John Key's baby, wasn't it?
John Key's baby. Well,
yeah.
it sort of, correct me if I'm wrong, but it now appears that they're going to look at using that venue as a sort of a showcase for industry, a bit of an industrial pavilion for business and exporters and importers and manufacturers. Essentially a trade display.
Oh.
So prime space down there on the waterfront, all this hoo-ha and baloney, not going to be Party Central, going to be
a bunch of stalls.
Just a number of stalls. It's like a sort of like the field day.
So there's some dude selling his carpet.
Exactly.
Someone else there with their milk, their bottles of milk.
And a bit of frozen lamb products. Don't get me wrong, all wonderful products that enable us to live in the lifestyle to which this country has become accustomed, and I suspect, given the economic climate, will soon won't be becoming accustomed to.
So it's going to look like
it's bailing out all the banks and insurance companies.
It's going to look like one of those downtown souvenir shops, isn't it?
People will be leaving, do you think? The school kids will be going there with their plastic bags, hoping to get lots of glossy brochures.
Yeah.
Yeah, I suspect it will. There'll be tat for sale from one end of the waterfront to the other. So it looks like, I think Party Central looks as if it's going to be back to the ordinary folks who own all the bars, the waterfront, the viaducts, Queen Street, K Road, Ponsonby, Parnell.
Which in some respects was probably what it just should have been left up to anyway, right?
Should have been.
The existing businesses, the existing people who are in that trade can take care of it.
That's exactly right. They're very good at it. They've all spent rates and tax money and all of that setting their businesses up, so why shouldn't they get a little bit of the cream that may well come from the rugby crop?
Indeed. Then turning our attention towards politics, the Labour list, of course, was out, and a bit of controversy yesterday, calling it a gaggle of gays and self-serving unionists.
Yes, Damien O'Connor from the West Coast, I'm sure he pulled in a few votes for that, actually, and I imagine that the central commands there in Labour aren't all that concerned about it, because he lost his seat, obviously, to Chris Uckenvale down there on the West Coast. So anything Damien O'Connor can do, I think it's only about 900 votes. So if he can come out as a strong, independent-minded Labour candidate and not tied up with these, the unionists and the gays that apparently are rife throughout the Labour Party, he may get a little bit of that West Coast vote back again. Either that or he's, rather miffed about the fact that he hasn't been put high up on the list. But then again, he never really has been. So, not putting his name forward for the list was probably not, overly detrimental to him. But nonetheless, Labour seeming to manage to find their feet, not only put them in their mouths, but shoot them while they're on the way to their mouths.
Isn't that the problem? They can't gain any traction with attacking the government on anything while all these sideshows are going on.
Absolutely, and there's plenty of things to gain traction on. So, no, there seems to be, a bit of infighting, as happens, when a party is attempting to rebuild itself. So there's, plenty of dead wood there, and a few new faces popping up on the list. But it's been described, I believe, it's a very safe and somewhat unadventurous list.
Finally, would you still have Tiki Tane come and play at your birthday party?
I probably would, but I wouldn't invite the police, I don't imagine. No. Yes, Tauranga police arrested him over the weekend for disorderly sort of conduct charges, I believe. After did he sing a sort of a notorious anti-police song?
Yes,
was it a Public Enemy song?
The police. The police.
Yes,
yes,
exactly. So I guess they were obviously a little bit miffed about that. They're only out there doing their bit to know what they were doing there, a bit of licensing check or something like that.
Well, I'm sure that story will come out. But now, wasn't it is it the Tauranga police that arrested the drummer for AC/DC? Yeah,
it was also them actually. And if I recall rightly, he's just had his appeal. He's had his appeal successfully appealed.
Yeah, the judge said that any conviction here would totally outweigh the actual crime itself. So it was completely thrown out.
Yeah, had a small amount of marijuana on his pleasure craft. That's what pleasure craft is for.
There needs to be some kind of investigation about the Tauranga police. I want that police department taken apart. I want to know who's in charge. I want to know what they're doing, what their plan is, and what their high priority is in that town.
Absolutely.
Because arresting
It was,
Tikitane and the drummer of AC/DC doesn't sound very productive to me.
That's right. Look, and most ridiculous comment of the week, I never saw it myself, but I've certainly read a lot of coverage of it, was the guy who runs one of the big trucking companies. I'm trying to think of what it was, but he was on one of the sort of current affairs programs over the weekend. He said, what has to happen with the police? You want to dismantle all of that police headquarters down in Wellington and send all that money to the frontline staff. And there were some very good comments, saying, if you ran your business and you allowed all your truckers and your freight forwarders to run it, the chances of that happening would be fairly small. And yet that's what this, supposed bastion of industrial knowledge and success was advocating. So there's a lot of morons out there. Perhaps on your week off, Wammo, you could head down to Tauranga and just ask some questions.
After just saying what I just said, I think I better avoid it.
You should steer clear of that.
I will play, though, this song from the Stomps. It is called Doing His Job. And I think this is a good one to play after this.
We'll speak again in a fortnight.
Look forward to it. Thanks to you, Radar.
Right up.
Cheers. See you.